Hey guys, JP Coolman here. This is really neat to be able to do this retreat with you all. Obviously it'd be neater, cooler if we could do it in person. We could see each other and interact a little bit, but hopefully you're getting a lot out of it. The Spirit's moving in your heart and you're able to draw closer to God and His love for us. So guys, today, in this one, we're talking about Christ's glory, how Jesus reveals the Father's glory. And I want to break it down into three themes. But before we start, I really want to highlight this theme of glory from John's Gospel. St. John writes a beautiful gospel and he has these awesome, powerful themes. And one of them is Christ's glory. That word glory comes up a lot. But I want to read it early on. He brings it forward in the first chapter, John 1, verse 14. He said, "And the Word became flesh and dwelt among us, full of grace and truth. We have beheld His glory, as of the only begotten Son from the Father." We have beheld His glory. So we're going to be talking about more what that looks like and why that's so important, so crucial to our lives as Christians and understanding who God is. So the first point is that the world's glory is not the same as God's glory. So whenever I think of the word glory, I always think of like an NBA champion lifting the trophy at the end, or people like chanting my name, like cheering for me, yeah, way to go. And like me being popular and famous and people loving me, people writing newspaper articles, whatever, But that's the glory of the world, right? But how did Jesus come to earth? He came as a little baby born in a manger in Bethlehem. No, in a cave in Bethlehem. There wasn't enough room for them in the inn. Can you imagine that? A couple years ago, I was able to go to Bethlehem. It was really an awesome experience, really a blessing. And they showed us what a manger looks like, And it looks like, I was blown away. It looks like all it is this stone, this rock, this big rock that has a smooth upper level to it, this smooth layer. And they said you used to put food in there, and it was a feeding trough for animals. So animals like cows, sheep, tigers, who knows, maybe tigers, they would come in and just eat the food in this feeding trough, and probably their slobber got in there, like their hair, their fur, like everything. And like they would tell us like it was probably nasty, And that's what Jesus was born in. And you think of the Blessed Mother and Joseph just loving this baby, knowing that he's the Son of God, putting him in this manger, just knowing this is all they have for him, that they're poor, they don't have anything. They've been traveling from Nazareth over 100 miles away to the small town of Bethlehem, and everyone's rejecting them. There's no room for them in the inn, which kind of gives you a foretaste of what happens at the end of his life, his rejection in that same area of Jerusalem, which is close to Bethlehem. And so we think about Jesus being born in this manger, in this feeding trough, Mary and Joseph just trying to give him the best they can. And who's the first one to come visit Jesus? It's the shepherds, the poor ones, the lowly ones, the ones the world wouldn't expect. They're the first ones to see God in this world and to see the God incarnate in this world. And that's the beauty of God, is that He doesn't come and meet us in terms that we expect Him to. He comes to us to reveal who He truly is. He didn't come as a king. He didn't come as a powerful ruler. He didn't come as this like Messiah that they wanted, because that's what the Jewish people wanted. They wanted a military leader that would overthrow the Romans and give them Israel back. They would give them their control back of their country. And when He came in on Palm Sunday, I know I'm bouncing all around here, but follow me. When He came in on Palm Sunday, the people were praising His name, Hosanna in the highest. He was coming in on this donkey. And He knew what was going to happen in a couple of days. He knew He was going to die. But they were praising His name, giving Him glory from their eyes, from the eyes of the world, thinking that He was going to do something special for them, thinking that maybe, just maybe, He'd be the one to overthrow the Romans and give them Israel back, give them their country back. But we know that Jesus had other plans, that He wasn't coming to take control. He was coming to lay down His life. To really reveal the Father's glory was to give Himself to the end, this self-giving love that we're going to talk about more in a minute. So that's the first point, is that God reveals His glory in a way that's different than our understanding of what glory is. And that's so crucial. One other point I want to make, just because this past week was Our Lady of Fatima. So Our Lady of Fatima, awesome, just a neat, awesome, special moment in our life as Christians the last 100 years. But Our Lady of Fatima, who did she come to reveal this powerful message for the world? She came to 3 children. 3 shepherd children who lived in Fatima, which was a nowhere town, and it didn't have any significance. So these children were 6, 8, and 9 years old. So these kids that nobody would have listened to. When I got to go to Fatima a few years ago, that was a real blessing too, was that when I went there, I was blown away by the homes of these visionaries, these kids. They still have the homes that you could visit. And I remember going in the homes and knocking my head on the wall, on the roof. I mean, I'm a tall guy, I'm like 6'3", but still, you could build a roof a little bit higher. But they said that the roof was that low because the family was so poor. Now you see the dirt floors, you just imagine like, these are the ones Mary chose to share this special message with the world. She couldn't have picked like the King of Portugal. He could have gotten the message out in 2 seconds. But how Mary and God sent Mary to these lowly ones, to the humble ones, to the ones who are able to receive him. Because it's not the proud, it's not the ones who are self-sufficient on their own, who have an open heart to God. It's the ones who realize that they need God. The ones who are humble, the ones who have that heart of a child, that know that they can't do it on their own, that they need God in their life. So that's our first point. Sorry I went so long on it. But that first point is that God's glory is not the same as our worldly understanding of glory. The second point is that God's glory, it's not just like God puffing himself up. Sometimes when you hear glory, you think like, yeah, I'm the best, You know, you see these NFL stars have a touchdown, what do they do, like beating their chest? But no. God's glory isn't for him. So God's glory is always for us. It's always for the other. I want to read something really quick here. It's from the Catechism of the Catholic Church, which is an awesome resource that summarizes our faith so beautifully. And this is the first line of the Catechism. It sets the theme for the whole book and reveals to us really the heart of God the Father. This is the first line. It says, God, infinitely perfect and blessed in himself, in a plan of sheer goodness, freely created man to make him share in his own blessed life. So I just want to break down a few of these parts. God, infinitely perfect and blessed in himself. So that means that God was okay in himself. So God is totally self-sufficient. He doesn't need anything. So he is totally perfect in himself. That's who God is. So he didn't need to create us. It's not like God was up there twiddling his thumbs, got bored of playing video games all day, and said, yeah, I'll create the earth and human beings and do that kind of stuff. No. God didn't have to create. He had no need to create. But because he is goodness itself and a plan of sheer goodness, love and goodness always wants to share. It always wants to expand. It always wants to include. It always wants to give to the other. In a plan of sheer goodness, freely created man, freely created human persons to make them share in his own blessed life, to make them share in this life that we're made for, because that's why God revealed his glory. That's why Jesus came to us. He didn't have to die this excruciating death. If God didn't want, he didn't have to become one of us, but in a plan of sheer goodness, he came to save us, to reveal his heart, to reveal his glory, so that we could someday share in his life, share in this life that our hearts deeply desire more than anything in our life. So that's the second point, is that God's glory is always about the other. It's always about this gift that he's giving to us. And the third point, the most important thing, is what is God's glory? God sent his son to become one of us. And how did Jesus reveal his glory? The night before he died, he said, Father, now is the hour to reveal your glory. And how did he do that? By giving himself to the end, by dying on the cross for us and revealing to us the heart of God the Father, and that self-giving love to the end, to the extreme, that he didn't save a single drop of blood, but he gave his entire self to show that this is what our life is about. This is how we're going to be saved. This is who God is. This is the blessed life that we're made for, is this life of giving and receiving, this life that pours itself out for the other, which is true love. And so often we have this image of love. You know, I love like a good romantic movie, like a good love story. Probably the most popular romantic movie of all time is Titanic, right? So like, I forget what grade I was in, but I remember it was in theaters for like almost an entire year because people were going to it all year. But everyone loves it, and they always say, you know what? Like, it's so beautiful the way Leo loves what's her name, Rose. It's so beautiful the way Leo loves Rose. You see how he died for her at the end, and he like floats away into the water. Don't watch it because there's a lot of, if you haven't seen it, because there's a lot of moments that aren't true love, that are using of the other person. But that moment where he dies for her, that's what like gets everyone to cry, and especially, you know, the girls who are in the theater, you know, got the tissues out. But that's funny because people love that. They love seeing this self-giving theme, even in a movie like that. But that speaks to something true in our hearts too, that our hearts are made for that. That's what we admire. That's what we are drawn to. And that's why we like go in there and cry, and our hearts are moved by it, because we see this guy dying, laying down his life for this girl that he loves, that he gives his life for. And that's what God shows us when Christ dies on the cross for us. He reveals to us that life isn't about taking glory for ourselves. It's not about being famous. It's not about being successful in the eyes of the world. It's about living this life of love, that God's glory is this gift of self that we're made for. I want to bring up real quick this story of this girl I talked about last week in a video. Her name is Chiara Corbella Petrillo. Really, look her up if you don't know her or haven't heard her story. Just a beautiful, amazing journey of faith and trust of this young, beautiful girl. And her and her husband Enrico went through some trials early in their life, and especially with losing children. And they got to the point where Chiara had cancer. And she actually had cancer when she was pregnant, but she chose to delay the treatment because she knew the treatment would hurt the baby. So that's one way she gave her life for her child, is that she waited to have this treatment to give life to her baby. And so after the 9 months, after giving birth to this beautiful baby boy, Francesco, she started the treatment, and they realized the cancer had spread throughout her body. And they realized pretty soon thereafter that she didn't have much time to live. That was terminal cancer. But I'm bringing her up because I want to mention a line that I didn't mention last week in the video. Towards the end of her life, she knew the end was coming soon, and she was really showing this true faith and this joy that people were confused by. She was showing this courage that people were just blown away because she was only 28 years old. She was about to face death, this dark moment. She was about to leave behind her child, Francesco, and her husband, Enrico, who she loved so much. But how did she have so much joy and trust and faith? And Enrico one day asked her, Chiara, is this cross really that sweet? He had been thinking about asking her this question for a long time. It had been like haunting him. And he said, Chiara, is this cross sweet like Jesus promised it would be? And Chiara looked at him with this just like tenderness and love that she always looked at him with. And she said, yes, my dear, it is so sweet, just like he promised. And she knew without a doubt that she wasn't alone in that suffering, that the one who was on the cross with her wasn't going to leave her, wasn't going to abandon her, that he didn't back down from death. He took that cross and walked those streets of Jerusalem and allowed himself to be nailed to the cross, so that when we're carrying our cross in our life and we face up to that day of death, that we know we're not alone, that we can do it with courage, and we could do it with that trust that Christ went before us, that he told us that I'm going first, and I'm going to take you with me to this place, this home, this life that you're called for, that you're made for. And that's the beauty of Christ's glory. That's the beauty of what Christ reveals about the Father, is that his desire is to bring us home to share in his blessed life through a plan of sheer goodness. That's what we're made for. And that's where he's leading us, if we open our hearts to him and journey with him day by day. So my prayer is that one of these themes, something we talked about, jumps out to you and touches your heart and draws you closer to Christ's love for each one of us. And I hope and pray this retreat's been a blessing. And I wish we could do it in person. That'd be a lot more fun. But hopefully we can see each other soon. Stay safe and know that we're praying for you, and we love you.